Hey everybody, welcome back to TechOdyssey. So I was doing some reflection and it occurred to me that our good friend, the BlackBerry Mobile KEYone, is 4 years old now. 4 years old. That's just insane. It seems like just yesterday it came out, and so much has happened over the last 4 years in the failed BlackBerry Mobile experiment. But thinking back to that time, it's actually interesting because on a parallel track, when this phone came out, it's actually when I decided to make my very first YouTube video. I started my YouTube channel, and specifically, my very first video was about the BlackBerry Mobile KEYone. Now, back then it was the silver model, the 3 gigabytes, the one that the screen fell out of within like the first couple of days that I had it. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, but ultimately what we ended up getting out of it was a more improved model, the Black Edition. But I kind of wanted to reflect back on when this phone came out 4 years ago, how it's holding up now, and just some general thoughts about BlackBerry in general. But before we get into that, I do want to say if this is your first time stopping by the channel, thank you for being here. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button, and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. Now let's talk about the birthday boy here, the KEYone. So the BlackBerry Mobile KEYone was actually received fairly well until the screen started falling out of it. It got trolled and dragged through the trenches and all sorts of problems. People criticized it for not having enough RAM, especially since it's supposed to be a multitasking phone. It had 3 gigs instead of 4, which really showed there was a very, very big improvement. Also, the original model, 32 gigs of storage. They had a 64 gig model later with the black model and subsequent updates. So this phone actually is pretty darn good. And moving up along the devices, after the BlackBerry Priv, which was the first Android BlackBerry, and the last one actually made and designed by BlackBerry, we moved on to the DTEC series devices with the DTEC 50 and the 60, but people really wanted a physical keyboard. Yes, it was nice having a Android phone that had the full touchscreen and all that jazz. The DTEC phones weren't that bad, but basically they were just rebranded Alcatel Pop 4S's. I think that's what it was, the Pop 4S? Yeah, I think so. So I actually ended up getting a DTEC 60 later on. I made a video about that. You can search through and find that. But people really wanted the physical keyboard back. And BlackBerry Mobile did the right thing. They made an honest woman out of BlackBerry, and they signed that licensing agreement instead of just kind of rebranding another device, and they designed the KEYone. And we subsequently after that got the Motion, the Key2, the Key2 LE. By and large, they're not bad devices. I think most of the criticism surrounds the fact that we never got Android 9 out of them. And of course, the BlackBerry KEYone launched with Android 7. So looking at it today in 2021, 4 years later, man, where has the time gone? I mean, really, if you think about it, it's gone by quick. So solid device, 4.5-inch screen, 1080p display. It's got a nice camera on it for the time when it came out, the same sensor as the Pixel. And the build quality and construction overall, I think, is pretty sound. I mean, it's held up well. I've had this phone for quite a long time. I've used it. The keyboard broke in pretty well. I'm glad they had the foresight to make a larger keyboard and kind of change the keys up and stuff. But when you look at the actual KEYone, especially the Black Edition, I've talked about this a lot of times. Had they made this one first and not the original KEYone, I think it would have been received a lot better. And then had they made the Key2 or the Key2 LE first, I think it really would have been a different story. But overall, quality control, of course, was an issue. They had the screen falling out, they had some other issues, and that, of course, carried along with the Motion and the Key2 and the Key2 spacebar. And TCL and BlackBerry Mobile were not exactly known for the highest standards when it comes to quality control. But it's a good phone, and it's important now because there's not a whole lot of BlackBerry phones out there that you're going to be able to use much longer because BlackBerry 10, we've discussed this ad nauseum, end of life, January 2021. Not really sure 1000% what that means, but the other two-headed prong of this problem is that the 2G and 3G networks are going the way of the dodo. They're going to be extinct, they're going to go away, and we need a phone that works with voice over LTE. And T-Mobile's doing it, Verizon's eventually going to do it, AT&T is doing it. And when you look at the landscape and see what's around, there's not a whole lot of phones that do that have a BlackBerry logo on them. So on AT&T specifically, they're saying they're going to support the Priv and the BlackBerry KEYone because basically they sold them. So since they sold them, they support them. And even though they're older than the Key 2 and the Key 2 LE, they're supposed to work. So that's an important thing to know there. The other one should work, I think, on T-Mobile and other GSM networks fine. But it's a good phone. I really enjoy the keyboard on it. At first, I didn't really like it a whole lot. And then going back to it later, and I kind of appreciated it a little bit better. I like the keys. I like the design. It's really classy. It is a sharp and sophisticated looking phone, especially the black model. It's got the rubberized back on it with the BlackBerry logo here and all that jazz. One camera. This is before the land of two cameras. This was just a one camera phone. But I think for BlackBerry, it actually did pretty good because BlackBerry never really was known for having amazing cameras. They had some okay cameras, but they never were like industry leading or anything like that. So there was quite a few kudos that were given to the camera on this phone. Of course, you know, when you get to the Key 2 LE, it didn't have the greatest cameras. But the Key 2, not bad, had two cameras set up. I enjoyed this phone. I did. I still enjoy it now. And I think if you want to go out and get one and use it until the OnwardMobility BlackBerry gets here, then I think you'll be in good shape. Unfortunately, it hasn't received a security patch since April of 2019. That's 2 years ago. So the software support basically ended on year 2. Still with the BlackBerry Key 2, at least the 100-2 model, we seem to be getting security patches still, which is just mind-boggling to me. Like, I just wondering when I'm going to wake up one day and we're not going to get those anymore. But security, yeah, it's dated on here. And of course, BlackBerry has always been known for security, but at least it has the DTEC security software suite on here and all the stuff intrinsically built into it already. So there probably are less secure phones from 2 years ago, but it would be much better if they actually kept up the security for this phone because there's not a whole lot out there. I mean, we have basically 4 phones left. We have the Key 2, the Key 2 LE, the Motion, which is very, very limited. I mean, not a lot of people have that. And then we have the KEYone. So I think it's a good phone. I think if you're still using one, it should hold up okay. It's got a Snapdragon 625. It's got a 3,500 milliamp battery. That is enough still to get you through the day. And some people have actually been replacing the batteries in them. I'm not quite that daring myself. I would honestly probably just look for another one. But if you can get a battery and replace it, that might extend the longevity, the life of your phone so that it will work longer until we're ready to get the new OnwardMobility phone once it comes out one day, which is still at a time to be determined. They missed the deadline. I made a video about that. We talked about it. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's right up here. You can click on this link and go there. But I think there are worse phones that you could still use. Yes, it would be nice to have a much newer, much better BlackBerry. If you've got a Key 2 or a Key 2 LE, you definitely don't want to go back and downgrade to a KEYone. But I still think the phones are okay. I really, really wish that they got Android 9. That would have been the bee's knees. That would have been like the best because coming over from BlackBerry 10, it was a really hard pill to swallow. I was very upset when we moved over to Android with the Prib. I said, okay, BlackBerry at least still made it. I'll go with it. I kind of got to like it, but except for like the throttling issues and the battery issues, the overheating issues, it was just plagued with problems. The design has actually held up really well though. So if you've got a Prib, those things are like bulletproof. Like they made a really good phone with the Prib, at least from hardware construction perspective. But looking at this guy right here, I always wished that we would have got Android 9. And it was supposed to get it, at least to my knowledge. At least the Key 2 and the Key 2 LE anywhere. I mean, they came out in 2018. But Android 9 would have been the best because you would have got the physical keyboard experience, BlackBerry security, and you still could have done all your swipe gestures, which would have been very much like BlackBerry 10. So I'm looking forward to that once the new OnwardMobility BlackBerry gets here one day. But at present time, there is no Android BlackBerry that can take advantage of the swipe gestures. You can't even change out the UI and get that. So I think it's still a good phone. As long as your battery is still hanging in there and it's not falling apart and your keyboard isn't missing keys, I think you'll be okay, at least in the short term, till we find out what the solution is from OnwardMobility and when the phone's going to be here. But I thought it would be interesting to take a look back at this. Of course, BlackBerry Mobile is no more. Their licensing agreement expired back in August of 2020, and the phone is still kicking. And that's something, a resounding theme when it comes to BlackBerry phones. A lot of people are using BlackBerry phones that are still really, really old. There's a lot of people still carrying Passports and Classics and Z10s and Privs and DTECs. We're no stranger to the game whenever we talk about using phones that are really old because, well, we want a new BlackBerry. So we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. In the meantime, yeah, I thought it would be cool to take a trip down memory lane. Maybe you've got a KEYone. Maybe you're still using it. Maybe you're still happy with it. I've had comments from people who they're still like, yeah, I still like my phone. I just want the new one. And of course, I don't blame you. But I just want to take a minute, look back at this guy. I know I covered this. I did a review kind of recently on it, but I thought it was a special time and a special occasion. 4 years ago, there was so much excitement. There was a lot of excitement surrounding this phone, even after it came out, and I think it was pretty well received, and I very much enjoyed it. I went out, I bought it day one, I launched my YouTube channel, I shot my first video on it, and I actually shot the first video using my BlackBerry Porsche phone. I don't know, I was just feeling nostalgic and wanted to take a trip down memory lane and bring you guys with me, but that's all I've got in this video. If you have one of these phones, if you had one, share your thoughts and opinions and comments down in the comment section. We'll talk about it. That's always fun. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.